What's going on, guys? And welcome to episode 216 of Hashtag AskGSM. Here today for January 17th, 2018. 16, 17s, 18s. Very confusing to keep track. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and are excited for Royal Rumble season. We got TakeOver Philly coming up next weekend, the Royal Rumble, obviously, and a lot of other exciting stuff happening in the meantime. Of course, as they've talked about before, we had Wrestle Kingdom a few weeks ago at the onset of 2018 to really kind of kick off the festivities. A lot of big signings this past week. Mixed Match Challenge, Raw 25 this coming Monday. It's a crazy time to be a wrestling fan right now, and I absolutely love it. But as always, guys, if you want to send in a question, be sure to tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave your question on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights on the page, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, be sure to drop your question in the comment section down below. I'll include it in next week's edition. So all that being said, guys, let's get started here. Demise Melee FC from YouTube, their question was, what are your predictions on each of the women's title matches at WrestleMania 34, and who do you think will be in the matches? So my original prediction, as I've talked about a few times here on the show and on WrestleRant Radio and other outlets, I would have done, keyword there, have done, because I'm not really sure what Paige's status is currently. I know she won't be in the Women's Rumble. That was another thing that happened this week, in the last couple of days. The news was broken that Paige's career might be over. WWE has made no comment of this at all. We just know that she won't be in the Women's Rumble, but they have not confirmed or denied the rumors. Maybe it's a wait-and-see approach. I'm not really sure. It's not good either way. Regardless, though, we do know that she will not be in the Women's Rumble coming up, and I would assume that she will not be at WrestleMania. It seems like that news was reported by a few credible sources. So it does look like she is done for good, and I'm going to go by that assumption for right now. If that is the case, then my original prediction of Asuka versus Paige for the Raw Women's Championship probably isn't coming true, which is unfortunate because that was the match I really wanted to see, the biggest money match, in my opinion, from the Raw side for WrestleMania. I mean, I guess you could do Asuka and Alexa Bliss, but I don't know. We just saw it on Raw. It really wasn't that good of a match. And Alexa Bliss, I love Bliss, but she's not like a dominant champion. So Asuka beating her for the belt of Mania, it's an expected outcome, which is fine. Predictability isn't always a bad thing. But it's like, that's not a WrestleMania-worthy match, at least in my opinion. But I don't know what else you do if you don't do that. You're not going back to Banks and Bayley. And I do think the Women's Rumble should be won by Asuka. And I said this a few weeks ago on WrestleRant Radio. You got to have the Women's Rumble won by someone and then go on to WrestleMania like an Asuka. I mean, I guess it could be Ronda Rousey. But either way, you have to have the women's title matches at WrestleMania this year, if only just one. If you want to do a three-way with the other brand, that's fine. We need at least one, if not two, one-on-one matches with the women at WrestleMania. None of this freaking multi-women shit that we see every single year. WrestleMania 32 might be the only exception, because that was a great match. Last year, the four-ways, the six-ways, it's ridiculous. The open challenges, it's so dumb. We need real one-on-one women's rivalries heading into WrestleMania. I know they want to get everyone on the card and do all that garbage. You know what? That's fine, but it doesn't make me care anymore whatsoever. I couldn't care less, to be honest with you. The build to last year's four-way with Charlotte, Sasha, Bayley, and Charlotte, Bayley, and Becky. Not Becky. It was Charlotte, Nia, Bayley, and Banks. It was terrible. The build to that belt was terrible. And the women's one on SmackDown wasn't that much better. The match was a complete cluster. So I'm hoping we get a real one-on-one women's match at WrestleMania this year. Again, I would have done Paige and Asuka. Then on SmackDown, Charlotte and Rousey. But I would assume Rousey will be at WrestleMania. It's all but confirmed that she's coming to WWE and that she is signed with them. Some sort of deal. I find it hard to believe they would put her on SmackDown, though, because at the end of the day, Raw is still their flagship show. So if that's the case, I mean, I guess you could do Rousey and Asuka, but I don't want Rousey to win, and she probably should win in her first WWE match, or her first one-on-one match in WWE. And I don't want Asuka to lose at this point, so I don't know what you do. I think Asuka is probably winning the championship at some point before WrestleMania if she doesn't win the Women's Rumble. She's winning the championship either way at some point between now and WrestleMania. Either it's going to be at Fastlane, or the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, or at WrestleMania itself. And if that's the case, maybe I could see us getting Rousey and Asuka for the belt. And then on SmackDown, if you don't do Rousey and Charlotte, there really is no one-on-one women's match that you could do that would make sense. I mean, I guess you can go back to Becky and Charlotte, but been there, done that multiple times. Carmella, Charlotte, who cares, you know? They don't really have any money matches on SmackDown right now, other than if they brought in Ronda Rousey and put her up against Charlotte. So that's the match that I would do. Again, it's not realistic, because I think if they do bring in Rousey, and it's, like I said, all but confirmed that they will, she'll be put on Raw. And I guess you could still do Charlotte and Rousey as an interpromotional match, but at that point, why not just put her on SmackDown? So, I don't know. That's what I would have booked. At this point, doesn't look too likely. At least if one of those women's matches at WrestleMania is a one-on-one singles match, then I will be content. Our first one since WrestleMania 22. Like a standard singles matches. No stipulations. I think WrestleMania 23 they might have done one, but it was like a lumberjill match. That's terrible. I want a real one-on-one women's match at WrestleMania. Please. We are AP450, also from YouTube. If Ricochet, War Machine, and Candice LeRae are all make the main roster at some point, who do you think will have the greatest success? Good question. I think they could all be pretty successful. I think War Machine's, they're a pretty good tag team. The only issue I see them running into is that we already have the Bludgeon Brothers, who are like almost the exact same thing. They feel like a carbon copy of War Machine. So I'm not sure how far they could go, but I think they could be, you know, a great asset to either tag team division on Raw or SmackDown if they use them properly. Candice LeRae, she's a great worker. I think she's very likable. She should be first put on NXT. I think she can go far in the main roster, but I think Ricochet is the real star here. I mean, they could always put him on 205 Live, and he can, you know, join that sinking ship and the kiss of death that is the Cruiserweight division. But I think his real, I don't know, like Finn Balor. Finn Balor's a Cruiserweight. He's, you know, 180 pounds soaking wet, so why wouldn't he be on 205 Live? Because WWE know that he's a star. They might not treat him like one right now, but the guy's a star. Ricochet, in my opinion, is the same exact way. Now, if the Cruiserweight division was white hot right now, and they were killing it, like it was the Cruiserweight Classic, then yeah, absolutely. Having him join the Cruiserweight division would be for the best from the get-go. But 205 Live could not be any more irrelevant. Hideo Itami just joined. I feel like that was the best choice for him, because he wasn't going anywhere in NXT. He needed a change of scenery. But even he isn't really getting over. He's not even really on the show more often than not over the last month. You know, it's a wait-and-see approach with him, but it's not doing him any favors, you know, and he looks not nearly as good as he did when he first came into the company a few years ago anyway. Ricochet, I feel like, would be wasted on that show, facing who? Frickin' Tony Nese and Drew Gulak? The guy belongs in the, maybe not the main event scene from the get-go, but the guy could be a real exciting mid-carder to watch, because everyone can do what the Cruiserweights do. I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, I know they can go for, you know, they can wrestle a lot better than most of the guys, but they're just not allowed to show that or showcase their skills. Ricochet is an extraordinary athlete. The guy should not be, again, in an ideal world, should be in the Cruiserweight division, yeah, but considering that he can do things that not only the Cruiserweights can't do, but also anyone else in the main roster, that guy should be in the mid-card division in either Raw or SmackDown. Again, I would put him on NXT first, obviously, but assuming they all make the main roster, I think Ricochet could go the farthest. Emmanuel A. from YouTube. My birthday is this Friday. Happy birthday. And I was trying to think of birthday-related questions to ask. Since I can't really come up with anything, I'll just ask you this question that's actually part of a film course I'm taking in college. If you were stranded on an island, but you had enough solar power to play DVDs, what 5 movies would you keep? So, the 3 movies, my top 3 favorite movies ever, that I would have to put on there, I would include 3 DVDs, 3 movies, and then 2 wrestling DVDs. So the 3 movies I would include would be Back to the Future, obviously, Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, not the early, not the latest rehash, which was terrible. Ghostbusters from the 80s, Back to the Future from the 80s, which there hasn't been a remake of, thank God, and Guardians of the Galaxy. So for the 2 wrestling DVDs, this is not your criteria, it's mine, but for the 2 wrestling DVDs that I would bring, the CM Punk documentary, and I was contemplating bringing Money in the Bank 2011. I would bring an NXT TakeOver show, but they don't sell those on DVD. I was contemplating Money in the Bank 2011 but the CM Punk documentary DVD, the Best in the World documentary, has that match with John Cena on it. So I would include the CM Punk documentary, my favorite documentary of all time, and also the NXT DVD that came out a few years ago. I know they came out with one recently from like Secret to Sensation or something like that. The one that I would get, that I would bring with me on this island, would be the NXT Greatest Matches DVD. I have watched it with everyone under the sun. It's a great DVD. I've watched it like 4 or 5 times in the last 2 years. It's a great DVD with a lot of awesome NXT matches. So those 2 DVDs, the CM Punk DVD and the NXT DVD, as well as Guardians of the Galaxy, Back to the Future, and Ghostbusters. His second question: one of my earliest memories as a wrestling fan is Kurt Angle winning the World Heavyweight Championship in a Battle Royale on SmackDown in 2006 after last eliminating Mark Henry. It actually made me want to see the Royal Rumble pay-per-view that year to see that match, which, admittedly, the thought seems incredibly naive in retrospect, since Mark Henry did not become a sincerely threatening monster heel until 2011, but I suppose that was the benefit of a simpler time. Is there a storyline that you were invested in when you were younger that you probably would not be as half invested in today? Good question. I was thinking back to like the storylines that I grew up watching in 2008, but I feel like a lot of them were really good. Like, that's the thing. Like, if I started watching in 2009, like, that'd be a different story. In 2008, like, the stories that I followed closely were Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho, one of the greatest feuds of all time, and Edge and Undertaker over on SmackDown, which was also amazing. So I came in at a pretty good time in 2008 on both Raw and SmackDown. I mean, the benefit of a simpler time, like a storyline that isn't as great in retrospect, but I was really digging back then. Maybe John Cena and Randy Orton in 2009. I feel like if I knew what I do now, I would have been like, oh, we've seen this before, why do it again? But I mean, I don't know. I was enjoying it for what it was in late 2009. Beyond that, I mean, Triple H and Orton, I was really digging. But then again, that was a good feud. The match just sucked. At WrestleMania, I didn't see the match, but the feud was pretty good. I didn't see the match at the time, I should say. The match was just not good at all at WrestleMania 25. That's really about it. I mean, those are the only feuds I that I remember finding myself pretty invested in. Like William Regal as the Raw GM. I love that as much today as I did back then, though, because I thought that was a great angle. I thought Regal knocked it out of the park with that role as the vindictive heel Raw GM, turning off the lights and stuff. I thought that was awesome. So, yeah, beyond that, I mean, those are really the only feuds that got me sucked in back then when I first started watching. But they were all great angles, so it's kind of hard to complain and to say that in retrospect they're not as good. Captain Sunshine from YouTube as well. How is it that somebody was crowned a new champion on SmackDown and it still feels like nothing happened on the show? Yeah, I mean, that was really the only highlight from SmackDown. I know they only had 4 matches, 3 of which involved the United States Championship. The only other one was the women's match, which meant nothing in my opinion. And none of the matches on the show were all that good anyway. Rude and Mahal tried, but they just didn't really have any chemistry. And I liked Rude winning. I was really happy to see that, but the other 2 semifinal matches really weren't that good. AJ did not appear in front of the live crowd on the show. Neither did Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn. The Usos had an interview backstage. So it was a pretty simple show, and usually I like the format with shows like that where like less is more. But none of what we saw on SmackDown last night, aside from Rude winning, was compelling. A show built around Jinder Mahal is not a great episode, in my opinion. That was the whole issue with him being WWE Champion in the first place, was that the show is centered around him, and as a result, the show sucked, because Jinder Mahal is just not that good. At any rate, though, SmackDown last night, very forgettable show, aside from Rude winning, so I know what you mean, but yes, SmackDown has just been in this rut for like weeks and weeks and weeks now, where it's at the point, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure what really needs to be done. I know they need to focus less on the authority figures, which they did last night. Daniel Bryan and Shane appeared at the end of the show to crown Bobby Roode as the United States champion, but they really weren't involved in anything storyline related, which is good, because the over-reliance on the authority figures right now on SmackDown is nauseating. So maybe they need to move away from that heading into WrestleMania, because just right now, nothing they're doing is intriguing me in the slightest. But you were absolutely right. Really, nothing felt like it happened on SmackDown last night, aside from Bobby Roode becoming the new United States champion. I like the renewed focus on the title, don't get me wrong, but none of the matches were really all that good. The whole show was just kind of like there. And SmackDown has just been there for a while now. Deshaun K from Facebook as well. Let me just make sure I'm not skipping over any questions here. Yeah, I'm not. His first question, do you think The Miz should win the Money in the Bank ladder match this year? And if not, then who? And would you have that person cash in and lose? Yeah, I would have Miz win. I know the Solomonster said the same thing on his podcast a few weeks ago. That was his bold prediction, or one of his bold predictions for 2018, was that Miz would win Money in the Bank, go back over to SmackDown, and win the WWE Championship. I don't think he's winning the world title on Raw. I really don't. He should. I don't think he will. But I think if he moved back over to SmackDown, won the world championship over there, I'm in full favor of that. But, yeah, no, I think Miz, I don't know if he will win, but I think he should win. I absolutely agree with that. And if not Miz, then who? And would I have that person cash in and lose? Now, we already saw that with Baron Corbin last year. Has not worked out too well for him at all, obviously. Damian Sandow, same thing 5 years ago. The guy was ruined from that point forward. So no, I would not have them cash in and lose, but who else would I give it to? I could see it going to Strowman. You know, he has yet to win a world championship. Though I can't see him carrying around a briefcase, though. Like, that's the only thing. So if not Strowman, then, like, who? Joe would be a good one. Because he has yet to win any championship at all on the main roster. He should be a world champion this year. And again, he's another one I really can't see carrying around a briefcase, but, you know, we've seen weirder things with, like, Randy Orton and others, so, yeah, I'd give it to Samoa Joe, if not The Miz, and I would have him cash in successfully and win the championship. Being that or also Bobby Roode, too. Bobby Roode would be another good one, if he's done with the United States Championship by that point. So, if not Bobby Roode, then Samoa Joe. Being that John Cena and Roman Reigns are in the Royal Rumble, do you see them as the final two? I just do not see Shinsuke Nakamura winning this year due to that factor. You know, that's what scares me. I saw someone else say that same thing. It cannot possibly come down to John Cena and Roman Reigns. They did that last year. You know, Orton is not nearly as despised as Cena is or was or whatever. But that's what they did last year. Because Orton winning on his own by throwing out Bray Wyatt would have been, people would have pooped all over that. But because he threw out Roman Reigns, people cheered. And also, you got to consider around that time, the whole Orton-Wyatt family angle, it was intriguing. Then after the Rumble, or after Elimination Chamber, I should say, it went fucking down the drain. It was terrible. Cena and Reigns, I mean, it's like, if you have Cena toss up Reigns, yeah, would people cheer because Roman didn't win? Yeah, but it's John Cena. Then at that point, he's tying Stone Cold's record. And he's going on to WrestleMania to win the championship. I just do not see that happening. I can't see Cena winning. I could see a slight chance of it happening, but at this point, with it being all but confirmed that he is not going for the championship at Mania, and that he will instead be facing The Undertaker, I can't see him winning the Rumble. Roman Reigns, it's like he doesn't need to win it. Raw has the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. The guy does not need to win the Royal Rumble. It would not make... Not to say that it wouldn't make any sense, but it's just not necessary. You're right. I mean, Nakamura winning because of that, my hopes, you know, continuously go down and down and down because Nakamura has really not been on SmackDown at all in recent weeks. And that makes me fearful that he's not going to win. That he's not going to win the Rumble. That's something a lot of people just want to see, which is why he's like the odds-on favorite right now. But I just really do not want to see Cena and Roman as the final two. Either one winning would be terrible. We've seen it before, and it's in Philly, and I'll be there. People are going to boo it out of the building. I could see it happening. It's like, John Cena throws out Roman as, payback for Roman beating him at No Mercy last year. It's like, who cares? Who cares? It's got to be Nakamura. We need a satisfying Rumble finish for a change. I mean, yeah, the way they did it in 2017 and 2016 with Triple H and Orton respectively, was it well done? Yeah, especially with 2016 when it came close to being Dean Ambrose, which everyone knew it wasn't going to happen, but there was hope there. There was hope, and they made the finish great and made it very exciting, as opposed to Triple H just throwing out Roman Reigns. So yeah, I thought we need something like a real fresh winner, not just a well done finish. We need someone who can win and that can really benefit from it. Not a Batista or a John Cena or a Randy Orton or a Triple H. We need an active member of the roster that can benefit from winning the Royal Rumble like a Shinsuke Nakamura. Because if Nakamura does not win the Royal Rumble, he is very likely, very, very likely to not go for the championship at any point in the next 3 to 4 months. It just won't happen. So he needs this Rumble win more than anyone. And I feel like people would accept him as a Rumble winner because he's a beloved babyface. Next question, also from Deshaun. Just an opinion, but I really think the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view should be the last stopgap before WrestleMania 34 and not Fastlane. Creative would have to come up with Fastlane feuds, ruining potential fresh matchups in the process. And plus, after Fastlane, they would have 3 weeks of build-up on SmackDown's side, while Raw will have the whole month of March to prepare. WWE's pay-per-view scheduling is so illogical. I'll take it a step further. I say get rid of both pay-per-views. We don't need Fastlane, and we don't need Elimination Chamber. Name me the last Fastlane or Elimination Chamber pay-per-view that was like, oh man, that was so necessary, that was great. You know? When? At any point in the last, few years. Elimination Chamber last year from SmackDown was a good show. It wasn't a great show. I thought it was a good show, though. And the Elimination Chamber main event was awesome. The best chamber match in years, if not ever. But beyond that, it's like, you can just do that stuff on SmackDown. Not the Elimination Chamber match, but I've always felt that the Elimination Chamber match right before WrestleMania makes no sense. Because the company sets in stone their WrestleMania main events like by the Rumble. So if they want to get the championship on someone, they will do it at like the Rumble, not the pay-per-view before WrestleMania, because by that point it's so obvious who's going to win. I loved Bray Wyatt winning. We all figured it was going to happen after Orton won the Royal Rumble. It's just so unnecessary. Fastlane's even worse, because Fastlane has nothing redeeming about it at all. The 2015 show is fine. The 2016 show sucked for the most part. Last year was atrocious. Last year was terrible. Those pay-per-views are completely pointless. Completely pointless. I would much rather go back to the days of having no pay-per-views at all between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. I know it won't happen, but you know what? It makes Raw and SmackDown more must-see. Because if you're going to do a big match between now, or between, like the Rumble and WrestleMania, you can do it on SmackDown. But like having those middle-of-the-road pay-per-views in the middle of the road to WrestleMania, like you said, ruins fresh matchups. It does. Like, look no further than Fastlane 2015. They did John Cena and Rusev when they just did it again at WrestleMania that very next month. Why? Why not just save it for WrestleMania? Why have it? Because they need a pay-per-view to fill. They need matches to put on this pay-per-view. That's why we're doing it. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to handle it, but if it was up to me, I would scrap not only Fastlane, but Elimination Chamber 2. They're both absolutely unnecessary, in my opinion anyway. Tyler L. from Facebook, his first question, what are some unique opponents you hope to see Ricochet and War Machine face? Ricochet and Neville would be unreal. I know we're not getting it because Neville's gone now, apparently. I mean, he's still under contract, but it doesn't look like he's coming back. Ricochet versus really anyone. Versus AJ Styles. Take my life savings. That'd be amazing. Ricochet versus really anyone, but AJ Rollins would be at the top of my list. War Machine. Them versus the Bludgeon Brothers, like I said earlier, could be a lot of fun if they just allow them to go all out and just have a brawl. Bludgeon Brothers have been plowing through Breezango, the Hype Brothers, the Hype Bros, the Ascension. They're going to need some equals at some point, and War Machine or Authors of Pain. I think Authors of Pain are coming up after TakeOver. Like, I have no doubt about that at all. I think they'll be wrestling at TakeOver. I think against the current champions, Fish and O'Reilly, against Undisputed Era. They have to lose, and then they'll get called up to the main roster. There's nothing left for them in NXT. So I'm hoping they get called up and we get a Bludgeon Brothers Authors of Pain feud, probably over the SmackDown Tag Team titles. But War Machine facing either one of those teams would also be great. If they put them in NXT first, which I assume they will, War Machine versus Fish and O'Reilly could be a lot of fun. They had some great matches in Ring of Honor, and they can also have some really entertaining encounters in NXT as well. His second question, what would benefit Bray Wyatt more, a face turn or being reunited with Luke Harper and Eric Rowan with their new gimmicks, or Harper and Rowan as they're now called, excuse me. At this point, a face turn. I mean, he's reunited with Harper and Rowan before, and I like them all together. I like the Wyatt family better together than apart, but they reunited with Wyatt about a year or two ago. They've reunited at least like 2 or 3 times at this point, and nothing ever really came of it, like, at all. So I think they're just, at this point, there's no use. I think Harper and Rowan should just be pushed on their own, not be overshadowed by Bray Wyatt. They should be, I mean, Harper should be a single star. They're not going to do that, it seems, unfortunately. But at least allow them to shine in the tag team division. Having them be the punching bags for Bray Wyatt at this point is just a complete waste. So I would keep them apart and just turn Bray Wyatt face, because at least it's something we have not yet seen yet. The guy at this point, as of 2018, has been on the main roster for 5 years. It doesn't feel like that long at all, because he loses and loses and loses and loses. By this point, the guy might as well be damaged goods. So turning him face, it might not solve all their problems with Bray Wyatt, but it's a start. You won't know unless you try. And if it doesn't work, they can always turn him back heel. But what he's doing right now, I mean, the Woken Matt Hardy stuff is fine, but like beyond that, it's like, what else can you really do with this guy going into WrestleMania other than putting him in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, you know? So I would rather just have him go face and try something with that. Mark S. from Facebook, was there a missed opportunity by not pairing Jason Jordan and Bayley together for Mixed Match Challenge? Would they have made a strong babyface team? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was looking forward to Bayley and Samoa Joe. Unfortunately, like I said earlier, Joe got hurt, so it's not happening. We got Bayley and Elias instead. That could be a fun dynamic. Jordan and Bayley would be terrible, because people hate Jason Jordan anyway. And if anything, it would lead to Bayley getting booed. He's already getting booed some weeks anyway. So having Bayley get paired up with Jordan so they can both be booed would be the exact opposite of a strong babyface team. So I think they got it right with Bayley and Elias. Again, Bayley and Joe was my ideal tag team. People voted for it, and it was going to happen before Joe got hurt. But Bayley and Elias is good too. Bayley and Jordan would have been atrocious. Do you prefer the Royal Rumbles that had a 1:30 interval between each wrestler entering, or the 2-minute time interval that we have presently? I don't know when they switched it over. I really have no preference. 30-second difference doesn't really make much of a difference to me. I don't really even notice the difference. And anyway, it's not all timed perfectly. They'll just throw people in there whenever they please, because most people aren't really even keeping track of the time intervals. People are not counting every 90 seconds or every 2 minutes. So, it doesn't really matter to me. Either one is fine. I don't really care. Which event are you most excited in attending? The 25th anniversary of Raw or the Royal Rumble? Great question. It's tough. It's tough because they got a lot of people on tap for the Raw 25 show coming up on Monday. But then again, the Royal Rumble, it's my first ever Rumble, man. Like, I've been a wrestling fan now for 10 years. I've never been to a Rumble. I've been to TLC, Extreme Rules, Hell in a Cell, SummerSlam, and WrestleMania. 5 different WWE pay-per-views, but never the Royal Rumble. And the Royal Rumble has always been one of my favorite pay-per-views. The Rumble was the first ever show I ordered as a pay-per-view back in January of 2010. So I've been looking forward to going to one of these for a long time now. So probably the Rumble, but Raw 25 I'm also super stoked for, with everyone they have on tap, from Bischoff to Jericho to Stone Cold, Taker, DX. I know a lot of those names will probably be at the Manhattan Center. I'll be at the Barclays Center. But still, I think it could be a stacked show with who they have on tap and all the star power and what might happen only 6 days out from the Rumble. So it should be a very entertaining week nonetheless. That will also be a TakeOver Philly too. So it's going to be a crazy week between those 3 shows. TakeOver I'm also super pumped for, but of the 3, I'm probably most stoked for the Rumble, just because it's the Royal Rumble. And Raw 25 should be great, but we'll see. Ask me again in 2 weeks here on the show which one was better of those 3 shows. I'll probably say TakeOver, because NXT never disappoints. You never know the main roster product, but all 3 should be fun nonetheless. His next question, is there any wrestler from the NXT male roster that you would like to see in the men's Royal Rumble this year? Aleister Black would be pretty cool. No one really stands out as an obvious answer. Like last year, it was obviously Ty Dillinger. He had to come in at number 10. But we did that last year. We're good with he's not even in NXT anymore. He's in the main roster. He might not even be in it this year. But from NXT now, again, they'll be in Philly. So if you bring in someone from NXT, especially after being in Philly the previous night in the same building, I think, for TakeOver, I think it would make the most sense to have someone come in from NXT, for a one-off. And it could lead to a main roster run after WrestleMania. We've seen that before with Rusev and Ty Dillinger and a few others. So yeah, if I had to pick anyone from NXT, probably Aleister Black. Adam Cole, Bebe would also be pretty cool. I mean, anyone from NXT people would go nuts for. Drew McIntyre, I don't think he'll be ready by then. Drew McIntyre would be cool, but I don't think he'll be ready by then. But I had to go with Aleister Black. He obviously wouldn't win. But he'd get a monster pop, and it would get give fans that aren't familiar with him an early look at what this guy is all about, which, the guy's a star. If you don't know who Aleister Black is, you don't follow NXT, the guy is a star. So putting him in the Rumble to showcase his skills a little bit, I think would be a great idea. His next question, do you think there's any chance of Lio Rush getting an NXT Championship title shot if he got a push against Andrade Cien Almas if he remains NXT champion, considering how good his performances have been in NXT so far? At some point down the road, the guy's still paying the price for what he said on Twitter in regards to Emma's release back in October, but at least he's back on TV. You are right. We really haven't seen much of Lio Rush, so I'm not really sure what you're basing this off of. The guys have all of 2 matches. He had one against Velveteen Dream, which was fun, and the one against Lars Sullivan was also very fun. But beyond that, unless you followed his indie career, and I didn't either, I know how good the guy is, but if you're basing off what we've seen from him so far in NXT, he's only had really 2 matches, so... I think, down the road, though, the guy can be a huge star for NXT. He should have been right out of the gate, but then he had to make that dumb mistake with the tweet about Asuka, and then making the Asuka Lio Rush tweet, whatever, or the Asuka Emma tweet, whatever. So regardless, the guy's still in the doghouse for that, but at least he's back on TV. That's all that really matters right now. And then beyond that, I think he could be a great asset for NXT in the future. And I'm not sure by the time he eventually gets to that main event scene on NXT that Almas will still be champion. But yeah, he should be elevated to that level at some point down the road. And an Almas Rush match alone, whether it's for the championship or not, I mean, they could do it as a quick showcase match at any point between now and a takeover or whatever. And I'm sure it would be nothing short of stellar. So I'm looking forward to that day when we get that match. At Brandon_Dross, my brother Brandon, his question was, is Roman Reigns done for WrestleMania now that he was listed as a client at a steroid distribution list? I saw that. Bleacher Report broke the news. There's been nothing else said about it. I heard Mark Wahlberg's name was also on the list. That's just what someone said. So it could be complete nonsense. It could be BS. But then again, WWE, as of this recording, has not come out and said that it was BS. So I'm sure they're looking into it. I don't believe it, but seeing is believing. I'll believe it when I see it. I don't think it is true, but let's say it is. Are his plans for WrestleMania done if this turns out to be true? It's an interesting question. I'm going to say no, because they've been building towards this for so long now, and it's Roman Reigns. Oh, double standard. Yeah, exactly. Double standards. They have done it before. The guy got suspended for, I don't know, medication, roids, who gives a shit, whatever it was, in the summer of 2016, but he still came back, and his first match back was for the World Championship. And they knew well before they made that match that the guy got suspended, that he was going to be gone for 30 days or whatever it was. Reigns, if he gets suspended again, maybe it's 60 days, they'll still find a way to do the match at WrestleMania. Lest we forget, this is the same company that where Jack Swagger, days removed from winning the Elimination Chamber in 2013, becoming the number 1 contender to the World Heavyweight Championship in the process, still, days removed from that, got arrested for having fucking weed in his car and for a DUI, but he still went on to WrestleMania. He still vied for the World Championship. Now, granted, after that, he was a job out. He was jobbed out by the company, and he was a loser. But he still went on to WrestleMania, and I'm sure got a pretty nice paycheck for being in that World Championship match at WrestleMania 29. So, no, it would not surprise me, because once this company sets in stone their plan to WrestleMania, unless they get injured or they're fucking dead or something, they're not going to change their plans. So if Roman Reigns was involved in any of this nonsense, maybe they suspend him for a little while, but I honestly think that, I don't think it's true in the first place, but I honestly think that if it was, they would still bring him back in time for WrestleMania to do that match with Brock. They've been building towards this for so long that only now will something stop them from doing the match. I don't think so. Even as serious as this might be, I still think they'll stick with the plan of having Roman beat Brock for the belt at WrestleMania 34. At RG_Marceau, my brother Mr. Marceau, his question was, thoughts on the newest signees to NXT and not having the United States Championship match at the Royal Rumble? I love all the new signees. RJ knows this. I was super pumped. We were texting back and forth about it yesterday. Ricochet, I'm very familiar with all three of them for the most part, or four of them, I guess. All the new signees. Ricochet, obviously, I know primarily as Prince Puma from Lucha Underground. I got to meet him last year, a really nice guy. The guy is an amazing athlete. If you've seen him in New Japan, Lucha, whatever, the guy's incredible. I think he could be huge for NXT. War Machine, you know what? I was never sold on War Machine in the beginning in Ring of Honor. I was never a big War Machine fan. I just did not find them interesting at all, but they went through like this resurgence about a year ago, and they went over to New Japan. They captured the tag titles over there. And they got just a lot more aggressive and a lot more fun to watch. And I'm sure they've always really been that way, but I don't know. And I've seen Warbeard Hansen a number of times in person at Northeast Wrestling shows. Never got to meet him, I don't think. Now I wish I did and got a picture with him now that he's in NXT or in WWE, whatever. But yeah, they've really grown on me in the last year. I think they could be a great tag team, a great addition to the NXT or Raw or SmackDown tag team divisions. And then Candice LeRae is a slam dunk. I'm not too familiar with her work from outside of WWE. I'm obviously very familiar with her. Married to Johnny Gargano. It was really only a matter of time before she got hired, because not only is she Johnny Gargano's wife, the number one contender to the NXT Championship, she's also really, really good. And she proved that in the Mae Young Classic. So I think she can be a great asset to I don't want to say depleted women's division in NXT, but they really don't have a ton of people. They just brought in Shayna Baszler, also from the Mae Young Classic. They have Ember Moon, the iconic duo for now. I think one of them, if not both, will be in the Women's Rumble and then probably get called up at some point soon after. But yeah, I think they need LeRae right now, and all three are great signings. Now, as far as the United States Championship match not happening at the Rumble, I figured last week when the Cruiserweight Championship match was likely going to be added to the pay-per-view, and we had 2 tag title matches and 2 world title matches, and the 2 Rumbles that will probably go. The women's will probably not last a full-on hour. The show is 4 hours long. It's still not that long, though, for 2 Royal Rumbles. The men's Rumble is going about an hour. The men's Rumble is obviously usually goes about an hour. So that's a fourth of your show gone right there. And the other matches, unless they go 5 or 10 minutes each, it's not going to fit on the show. So they had to bump one match. If it was any match, it might as well be Rude and Mahal. I wish I could have been there to see Rude win the championship in person, because I'm a big Bobby Roode fan. But the match really wasn't that good, though. So I'm kind of glad it's not happening at the Rumble between Bobby Roode and Mahal. They'll probably just put him in the Rumble match itself instead. But yeah, I figured if there was any match to be bumped, it'd be that one. And as far as Amore and Alexander happening for the Cruiserweight Championship, they'll probably bump that to the pre-show. I guess they could do Usos and Gable and Benjamin on the pre-show, but I feel like that belongs in the main card. The Usos should not be slighted any longer. Those guys are incredible. I know one of them just got a DUI. I'll talk about that soon enough. Got a Dewey or a DWI, whatever. But that belongs in the main card. I feel like if any match should be bumped to the kickoff show, it should be the Cruiserweight Championship match. And that's all you really need. I've seen Rumble shows before with 4 or 5 matches. And that was with one Rumble. Now we have 2 Rumbles. So they don't need that many matches on the undercard, especially since the 2 top world title matches will probably go about 20 minutes each. I don't really need to see 20 minutes of Brock and Kane, but it's bound to happen. So yeah, at least they're trimming the card a little bit. Roode and Mahal did not need to happen at that show, and they moved it forward to SmackDown. That's fine, and they'll probably bump the Cruiserweight title match to the kickoff show. In his second question, going through past Rumbles, who are some people that you were shocked were included in the match, not surprise entrants? So people that probably didn't belong in the Rumble in the first place, as I assume is what he's asking here. Like Enzo last year. Was that really necessary to put Enzo in the match when we already had Big Cass? I was rewatching the 2017 Rumble to review for WrestleRant next Tuesday, and it was a good match, But it's like some decisions were made that were like, did this really need to happen? Like with Enzo coming in when we already had Big Cass in number 1. Enzo just came in to get laid out by Brock. That was it, to get laid out by Lesnar. And then he was on his way to the back. What a waste. What a waste. It was so stupid. And people liked Enzo at that point, so I'm not really sure what the point was, because people weren't really excited to see him. They were like, oh, what a waste of a spot. So he was one person I was shocked to see in that Rumble last year. The Usos, like from the 2012, I won't go through every Rumble. Every Rumble has like filler people in it. But like the 2012 Rumble with the Usos, the 2012 Rumble was a lot of fodder. A lot of fodder. The 2011 Rumble was too, but they had 40 people. That was to be expected. And they had the core and the Nexus, so it kind of sort of made sense to have that many people at the time. In 2012, though, it was like one loser after another. From like the Usos to like Primo and Epico. Like, who cares? Who cares? There were a bunch of people that were not in that Rumble that probably deserved to be in the Rumble. Putting the Usos at that point, which I know I just got finished talking about how much I love the Usos, but at that point, they were losers. They were losers. They were just another random tag team. No one thought for a split second that Jey Uso was going to win the 2012 Royal Rumble. Then why bother? The same thing this year. Why are you wasting spots on guys like Apollo Crews and Titus O'Neil? Why even bother? I like Apollo Crews, but it's a complete waste. Why even bother putting Titus O'Neil, of all people, in there? The guy sucks. And you know he's not going to win. That's what I don't get. I know you need to have filler people, but when you put like tag teams in there, like if we get Connor and Victor in the Rumble, then what the fuck is the point? Because you know they're not going to win. Like last year, I think they did a better job of that because they had like, I think they had like a tag team battle royal or some sort of battle royal on SmackDown with like Breezango and the Ascension and all these other random ass tag teams that Mojo Rawley won. And he was kind of like a sort of single star at that point because Zack Ryder got hurt. Like that made sense. Putting guys in like Cruz and O'Neal, I guess they just had him beat Cesaro and Sheamus to make them look like that much more of a threat to win the Rumble. If they're not getting attacked in title shot, then what the fuck was the point of doing that? You know what I mean? It's not making any sense. As long as the whole Rumble does not consist of losers from main event or superstars, then I'm fine with it. But it's like, why even bother in the first place? I know Dillinger isn't even on TV nowadays, but the guy deserves to be in the Rumble over Apollo Crews and Titus O'Neil. You know what I mean? Don't put in random tag teams because you know they're not going to win. Or like a Sin Cara. Like, who cares? You know Dillinger won't win, but he could be better off in that match than Apollo Crews or O'Neal because they're a tag team. They're a jobber tag team that no one cares about, and you know they're not going to win, so why even bother? At Jeremy8911 from Twitter, his question was, after what happened on Raw, do you think the Raw Tag Team title match of the Royal Rumble becomes a fatal four-way, as I just got done talking about, with Seth Rollins and Jason Jordan versus The Bar versus Titus Worldwide versus Gallows and Anderson? There's a decent shot of it, but after what happened on Raw this week when they announced, as I just talked about, Crews and O'Neal for the Royal Rumble, it seems like they just did that. They just had Titus Worldwide beat The Bar because they want to give them that much more momentum heading into the men's Royal Rumble. But again, why? Because we know they're not going to win, so why even bother? The tag team title match that you just proposed makes more sense. Plus, we've already seen Rollins versus The Bar like a million times. And they work well together. I'm sure the match is going to be good, but we just saw the match on Christmas. It's like, we don't need to see it again. So putting Titus Worldwide in there and Gallows and Anderson, since they mixed it up at The Bar anyway this week on Raw, I think it makes sense. I like that idea a lot. So yeah, I would love to see that. Hopefully, like Gallows and Anderson win. I know they won the tag titles last year at the Rumble, but I think they'd be a great addition to that match because, I mean, I could see them being in the Rumble match itself, but I think putting them in the tag team title match too and winning the belts from Rollins and Jordan would be pretty cool too. Next question, also from Jeremy. With Jey Uso's recent DUI charge, do you think the Usos will be dropping the tag titles to Gable and Benjamin at the Royal Rumble? Yeah, there's a pretty good chance at this point. I mean, probably not just because of the Dewey, but I mean, it's time for a change. I love the Usos, but like, who else is there left for them? It looks like the Usos are kind of sort of baby faces now, so if they wanted to keep the belts on them, just to put on the Bludgeon Brothers at some point, I could see that. I'm not sure, because I feel like if they were going to put the belts on Gable and Benjamin, they would do it now, because if they weren't going to do it, then they probably would have just had them get beat straight out on SmackDown a few weeks ago, as opposed to doing the finish that they did. I'm going to say Gable and Benjamin new champions, but probably not just because of the Dewey. I think it might just be time for a change. And the Usos, unless they face the Bludgeon Brothers, they've already beaten pretty much everybody on SmackDown. So putting the belts on Gable and Benjamin would be a fine idea. So I think they'll win. But I could also see them keeping the belts on the Usos and doing either them versus the Bludgeon Brothers or them versus the Authors of Pain on SmackDown coming out of the Royal Rumble too. Because like I talked about earlier, they got to be called up at some point in the very near future. They've done everything they can in NXT. And, Raw needs the tag team, so if they go to Raw, I'd be fine with that. But I think they should also. Going to SmackDown would not be a bad idea, because them versus the Usos could be a very fun feud as well. At the Average Grunt, he's got 3 questions here. First one being, can you rank these 3 men's Raw versus SmackDown matches from worst to best? Survivor Series 2005, Survivor Series 2006, and Survivor Series 2017. Survivor Series 2016, I'm sorry, not 2006. This is easy. From worst to best, 2017 was not that good at all. Very underwhelming. The one that we got this year, very underwhelming. 2005 was actually very good. I know JBL was in there, Bobby Lashley, Orton, Rey Mysterio, Shawn Michaels, bunch of other people. Kane, Big Show, I think. That was a really good match. The best one, though, was easily 2016. That men's Raw versus SmackDown match was great. That was one of the best matches all year. I would easily say top 10. If not, top 5 might be overshooting it a little bit, but it was definitely top 10 best matches for WWE in 2016. That was a great match. So again, worst to best, 2017, 2005 to 2016 topping off the list. Second question, can you rank these 3 New Day, Shield, Wyatt family matches, again, from worst to best? The Wyatt family versus the Shield from Elimination Chamber 2014, the New Day versus the Wyatt family from Battleground 2016, and the Shield versus the New Day from Survivor Series 2017. Again, a pretty easy answer. Battleground 2016 would be the worst. I still thought it was a very good match. Actually, a very fun 6-man tag team. All these matches are good. New Day and Wyatt family from Battleground 2016, a very good match, but it pales in comparison to the other two, in my opinion. Shield and New Day, a very underrated match. I thought that was a great match from Survivor Series a few months ago. And not really a dream match, but I thought they worked well together. A great way to kick off the show. It had a few botches, but I thought it was a really, really fun match. And undoubtedly, unquestionably, the undisputed number 1, Shield and Wyatt family from Elimination Chamber 2014. Again, I said top 10 for Raw and SmackDown from Survivor Series 2016. Shield and Wyatt's from Elimination Chamber 2014, top 5, if not top 3, best matches of 2014 for WWE. That match was exceptional. Absolutely incredible. The build, the execution, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. The atmosphere was excellent. That would easily be number 1. And finally, can you rank these 3 matches that had them going against each other from worst to best with the Shield? Ambrose versus Rollins from Money in the Bank 2015. Ambrose versus Reigns from Survivor Series 2015. And Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns from Money in the Bank 2016. So again, another pretty easy list. Worst, easily Reigns and Ambrose. Just not a good match. It was very underwhelming. I'm not sure why. They haven't had any matches since one-on-one on the main roster, so I'm not sure what went wrong on that night, but it just really wasn't a good match. It was like a 9-minute match for the finals of the World Championship Tournament. Not good at all. After that, let's see. I guess you can go either way, but I would say the best of those 3 was Ambrose and Rollins, the ladder match. It was a very long match, but I thought they told a great story, and Ambrose looked amazing in defeat, even though he didn't win. Ambrose and Rollins from Money in the Bank 2015, and then number 2, Rollins and Reigns from Money in the Bank 2016. That was also a really, really good match, with Rollins winning the belt back before Ambrose cashed in. Great moment. But basing it purely off the match, I think Ambrose and Rollins was better. Reigns and Rollins was also really, really good, but I would put that at a close second, and Reigns and Ambrose at a very distant number 3. At Scarlet One from Twitter, have you heard about Spike TV closing down and the Spike Twitter account ranting? Yeah, I saw that when it first came out. Shout out to at Reborn Again, John, who have his questions I've answered here on the show before. Great channel, check it out. Real Honesty with John Ritland. So check out his channel. But yeah, he had tweeted out the linked to the rant of the Spike Twitter account. I'm not sure if it's still up. I think it is, but it was hilarious. Hilarious. They were taking shots at TNA, at all these other shows. I thought it was real. I mean, I guess it is real, but I thought it was an actual disgruntled employee going off on the network. But I guess not, and I guess Spike is just rebranding into something else, so they're closing down the Twitter account or something like that. But it was hilarious, though. Definitely check it out. I think it's at Spike TV on Twitter if it's still up as of this recording. But I did see that, and I laughed my ass off. They tweeted something along the lines of, when we got the chance to greenlight TNA, everyone was really excited. And then we found out it was wrestling, and it turned out okay. They thought it was something completely different, which was hilarious. The favorite tweet of the week for me, by far, after reading that. Their second question, how do you feel about the Mixed Match Challenge and WWE's Mixed Tag Team Formula? I thought it was good. I mean, we really don't see many mixed tag team matches in WWE anymore. They used to be a constant staple of WWE years ago, but we rarely get them anymore, and I thought they did a great job of it with the Mixed Match Challenge. It was only one match, but it was really, really good. And now people want to see more intergender wrestling like in Lucha, but it just doesn't work for WWE. You're not going to see Shinsuke Nakamura delivering Sasha Banks. Like, that's not going to happen. It'd be amazing. It's not going to happen, though. I thought the way they did it last night on the show, the whole format of the show, I thought was good. I enjoyed it, personally. I'm looking forward to seeing what other matches and how the other matches are in the rest of the tournament. And their third question, would you call Monday Night Raw your favorite TV show? I guess so. I mean, I would have said, if you asked me 5 years ago at this point, 4 or 5 years ago, it would have been Psych. But that's obviously over now, and Monk's over. I really enjoy Rick and Morty. I know that's like a bandwagon answer, but Jason actually got me into that show about like a year ago, and I really, really love it. And I love season 3. So, yeah, that would be my favorite TV show, though. I guess Monday Night Raw, because I've watched it the longest, and I have not missed an episode since I started watching it 10 years ago. At Brad Bredar, his question was, he's got the final 3 questions for us here today. I know you alluded to it in your Raw review, and I was thinking about the same thing when they were cutting the promo on Raw, that the Revival are going to be embarrassed like someone like the New Age Outlaws next week. Surely WWE could not be this stupid. That's where you're wrong. I mean, they did not learn their lesson with the Ascension a few years ago? ? No, probably not. That's exactly what I was thinking, was what everyone else was thinking too. When they cut that promo about the Legends coming to Raw next week, they're getting their asses handed to them. The same way the Ascension did on that Raw reunion show a few years ago. They're getting laid out by the New Age Outlaws, by the Dudley Boys, by the APA, and I love all those tag teams, but it's like it does not do the Revival any favors. If you want to put the Revival in a match against the New Age Outlaws and have the Revival win, that's great. But having all the old tag teams come out and beat up the Revival is not going to do the Revival any good. These guys are way better than that. I just got done writing a whole article about this for hiddenremote.com. It should be up by the time you listen to this episode of #AskGSM, so check it out. Why these guys belong at the forefront of the Raw Tag Team division. They're so good. They're so good. But being relegated to serving as the whipping boys for the New Age Outlaws, the Middle Age Outlaws, and the Dudley Boys, who I love, but it's like it doesn't do them any favors at all, and these guys are way better than that. Do that with the fucking like Colognes or some shit, Do that with another tag team that can do that with Heath Slater and Rhino. Don't do it with the Revival. These guys are way above that, but that will not stop the company from doing it anyway. Your question, surely WWE cannot be this stupid. There, I prove you wrong, sir. There you are wrong, very wrong. Yes, the company can be this stupid. And yes, they do repeat the same mistakes. Lest we forget, they had Reigns win the Royal Rumble the very next year after Batista won, and that whole issue, that whole debacle, whatever, that was atrocious. So, yeah. Are they that stupid? Absolutely. I would not put it past them at all. Second question. Can you rank the theme songs of the following superstars from best to worst while giving your quick thoughts on whatever songs you want? There's a lot of songs here. I'll try my best, though. I made a quick list. Maybe not the exact way that I would order it, but you put down a lot of names here. So the list of themes that he wanted me to include were Akira Tozawa, the Brian Kendrick, Mustafa Ali. They're not all cruiserweights. Braun Strowman, Jason Jordan, Oney Lorcan, Johnny Gargano, Cassius Ohno, AJ Styles, Baron Corbin, Bobby Roode, Jinder Mahal, Mike Kanellis, Ty Dillinger, and Zack Ryder. From best to worst, real quick. Got to give the edge to either Bobby Roode or AJ as the best theme song of that bunch. Probably the best theme song in WWE right now. It's been my ringtone for like well over a year, like 14 months at this point. So Roode, I guess, would be number 1. AJ Styles at number 2, followed by Jason Jordan, whose theme I actually really like a lot. People hate Jason Jordan, but I really like the theme song. After that, Mike Kanellis. You never see the guy on TV anymore, but he's got a great theme song. Making up Something in Your Love. It's a great song, The Power of Love. And I will not attempt to sing them any longer. Baron Corbin, whose new theme, RJ knows he said he didn't like it. I love Baron Corbin's new theme. I think it's a great song. Cassius Ohno, oh no, super catchy. Johnny Gargano, like a lot. Akira Tozawa, dun 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 dun, very addictive. Oni Larkin, I was thinking about that the other day. He's got a very catchy theme song. It's so perfect for him. The Brian Kendrick, I'm a man with a plan. I always dug that theme song when he first started using it about 10 years or so ago. Always dug that song. Zack Ryder, the new radio, I think is much better than the old radio song that he used to use. Really enjoy Ryder's theme song. Ty Dillinger, it's pretty basic, but I like it. Braun Strowman, I got to put towards the end. I like Strowman, but his theme song isn't like something that I would listen to on loop or anything. So that's why I got to put it towards the bottom. Jinder Mahal, I got to give him the edge over Mustafa Ali. Mustafa Ali, I could not recite his theme song for the life of me. Even though I know it's good. It's like all right, but I don't really care about it. Jinder Mahal, I'll give him the slight edge over Mustafa because the guy sucks in the ring and he sucks in the mic, but he's got a half-decent theme song for the modern day Maharaja. So I'll give him the second to last nod here. And the final question from Brad Berdar. What was the most emotional moment for you in WWE in your first 3 years as a wrestling fan? And was it a sad moment or a happy one? Great question. Emotional moment. Probably when Edge retired. I wasn't like all that, I don't know, sad, I guess, when Shawn Michaels retired, because we all kind of saw it coming anyway. The Edge thing came completely out of nowhere. He wasn't done yet. Like, that was really like, oh shit, this is really happening. Because no one really thought it was real. Like, 3/4 through his promo, I'm like, wow, this guy's ribbon. When's Alberto Del Rio coming out? Then it became pretty clear that it wasn't an angle, it was real. Then I'm like, oh my god, this sucks. And I loved Edge. So that was within the first 3 years. Almost exactly within the first 3 years. That was in early April, and I started watching, 2011. I started watching in April of 2008. So that was probably the most emotional moment for me as a WWE fan. And that does it, guys, for episode 216 of #AskGSM. Or in the first 3 years, anyway, to go back to your question. But that does it for episode 216 of #AskGSM here today for January 17, 2018. We'll be back next week with a full-on Royal Rumble preview. It's Royal Rumble week here on YouTube for the channel through Monday through Sunday. We got a lot of Royal Rumble content going up. It's going to be crazy, but I'm looking forward to it. So anyway, guys, if you want to send in a question here to the show, be sure to tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post. I usually put them on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, be sure to drop your question in the comment section down below. I'll include it in next week's edition. So I was thinking maybe I'll be with RJ for Royal Rumble weekend, so maybe we can record a quick takeover review. We will be there in attendance, so I'm looking forward to that. So maybe we can give her a quick on-site perspective and our review of the show in a quick podcast form. Maybe we do #AskGSM, like a quick Ask RJ session. So stay tuned to the social media stuff, for more on that and more announcements in regards to Royal Rumble weekend in Philly. And not only that, too, another quick plug. I forgot to mention at the start of the show. I guess it all really depends on when you're listening to this, but tonight, January 17th, we are opening the spots for the 6th annual 2018 Royal Rumble game on my website, nextairwrestling.net. For the first time ever, we don't only have 30 spots, we got 60 spots between the Men's Rumble and the Women's Rumble. So if you want to sign up, the spots won't go that quickly. They usually go within minutes, within an hour. But because we got 60 spots this year and 2 different Rumbles, and you can't take 2. If you don't get one, your favorite number, if you don't get your favorite number in the Men's Rumble, you can get the same number in the Women's Rumble if you want, or vice versa. So that is going down tonight, January 17th, on nextairwrestling.net. The comments will open for you if you want to sign up for a spot. Right in the comments section, again, just leave your number, your name, your number, and what Rumble you want, male or female. You can't do both. It can only be one. So keep that in mind. But yes, I'm very excited for that. That's going to be happening tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right after NXT. So as soon as you're done watching NXT, head on over to nextdaywrestling.net and sign up for a spot in the 2018 6th Annual Royal Rumble game. That being said, folks, as I just got done talking about, we'll be back here on #AskGSM next Wednesday for episode 217. Until then, I am Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.